This story came from a man named Elias. He was 22, working his second job for the holidays, a temporary shift at a Christmas tree lot on the edge of town. The place wasn't much. A fence in the corner of an empty parking lot, strings of lights hanging between poles, and rows of pine trees standing in crooked lines like quiet green shadows. It was December 23rd, late, close to closing time, and freezing. There were only two workers on shift, Elias and an older man named Frank, who stayed in the little shed taking payments. Elias handled the lot itself. He trimmed branches, tied trees to cars, and kept the rows straight. By 10 p.m., the crowds were gone, and the lot was silent. Too silent, except for the faint crackle of cold bulbs overhead. Elias was about to head to the shed when he saw something that made him stop. In the far back corner of the lot, between two tall fir trees, a man was standing there. Not browsing, not moving, just standing. His coat was dark. His head was lowered. His hands were in his pockets, like he was waiting for something. Elias called out, "Hey man, we're closing soon." The figure didn't respond, didn't even look up. Elias felt a cold ripple move through his chest. He started walking towards him, slowly, boots crunching in the snow, the lights flickering a little overhead as the wind shifted. When he got about 10 feet away, he finally said, "Sir, we're closing." The man raised his head, just a little, just enough for Elias to see the lower half of his face. No expression, no surprise, just eyes that didn't seem to blink. Elias took one step closer, and the man stepped backwards, deeper into the rows of trees. Not running, not stumbling, just sliding one foot back, then the other, disappearing between the branches. Elias lifted a hand, unsure. "Hey, you can't be back there." He pushed a tree branch aside and stepped between the rows. The air felt colder, quieter. He moved through one row, then the next, but the man wasn't there. Elias walked all the way to the back fence, a tall chain-link barrier topped with barbed wire. There was no gate, no way anyone can climb out without making noise, and yet no footprints led away from the spot where the man had stood. Just a single set of prints, ending abruptly at the base of the tree. Elias stood there, breathing into his hands, trying to make sense of it. Then he heard something. Branches shifting. Soft. Carefully. Not from in front of him, from behind him. He turned, expecting to see Frank, but the shed was across the lot. Instead, he saw the silhouette of the man again, standing behind a different row of trees, still facing him. Elias backed up a step. The man stepped forward. Just one step, deliberate, controlled. Elias didn't call out this time. He just backed away, 1 foot at a time, never turning his back. He slipped out from between the trees and hurried towards the shed. But when he reached the door, Frank looked up confused. "What's wrong?" Elias said, "There's someone in the lot." Frank's face changed instantly. No fear, recognition. He reached under the counter, pulled out a flashlight, and said quietly, "Where'd you see him?" Elias pointed toward the back rows. Frank locked the shed door behind them as they stepped out. They walked together through the aisles of the trees, flashlight beam cutting through branches. Nothing. No figure. No footsteps except Elias. Just the cold hum of old lights and the sound of wind brushing pine needles. Frank finally said, "Every year someone sees him. Always around closing. Always in the same corner." Elias swallowed. "Who is he?" Frank shook his head slowly. "No one knows. He's never bought a tree, never spoken, never touched anything." He looked toward the back fence. But every December, he watches the workers head to their cars, like he's waiting for someone to walk out alone. Elias didn't finish his shift the next night. He asked to work mornings only, And even now, he says the part that still sits in his stomach like a stone isn't the figure itself, or the way he moved. It was the way he disappeared between the trees without leaving a footprint in the snow, like he'd been standing there long before Elias ever saw him. If you're still watching, you're exactly the kind of person this channel is for. Hit the like and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. She was 26 years old the year this happened. Her name is Maren, and she was spending Christmas Eve alone for the first time in her life. Her parents had flown out to visit family. Her siblings were scattered across states, and she didn't mind the silence. Honestly, she needed it. She lived in a small rental house at the edge of a cul-de-sac. Snow on the lawn, string lights still up from earlier in the month. It looked peaceful, and for most of the night, it was. She watched a movie, made herself cocoa, and by midnight, she was laying on the couch half asleep. And that's when someone knocked on her front door. Not loudly, not urgently, just 3 soft taps, like the person didn't want to draw attention, just hers. Maren sat up, confused. She wasn't expecting anyone. It was well past midnight on Christmas Eve, and her house was dark except for a single lamp. She walked to the door and looked through the peephole. No one was there. Nothing but porch light and falling snow. She stood there for a moment, listening, then went back to the couch. 10 minutes later, another knock. Same pattern, 3 soft taps, all polite. Maren froze. She hadn't imagined it. This time, she crept towards the door and stayed 3 feet back, far enough to avoid casting a shadow underneath it. She listened. No footsteps, no breathing, no movement. She leaned forward just enough to look through the peephole again. Still empty. She backed away from the door slowly. Her heart started thudding in her ears. She turned off the TV, stood in the middle of her living room, and waited. 5 minutes passed. Then, a knock at her back door. Not the front, the back. The door was behind her kitchen. No porch, no lights, and no reason anyone should be back there. Maren didn't move, didn't even breathe. 3 soft taps, exactly the same rhythm. She grabbed her phone and backed into the hallway connecting her bedroom. She called 911. Voice shaking, she told the dispatcher what was happening. The dispatcher told her to stay where she was and keep quiet. The officers were already nearby from holiday patrol. While she was on the phone, the knocks came again, but softer, closer. This time, it wasn't on the door. It was on the wall. A slow dragging sound, like someone running their fingers along the siding, as they walked along the outside of her house, trying to find a way in. She pressed her back against the hallway wall, hand over her mouth. The dispatchers stayed with her. Maren whispered she could hear them moving around the house, circling it. Then everything went quiet. No footsteps, no tapping, not even breathing outside. The officers arrived 7 minutes later and told her to stay inside as they checked the property. When they finally knocked, a normal, firm knock, they asked her to step outside. There were footprints, fresh, deep in the snow. But they weren't leading to her house. They were leading around it, circling it, twice. The prints stopped at her back door, continued along the wall, and ended beneath her bedroom window. The glass was fogged slightly, not from the inside, from the outside, where someone had been breathing against it. One of the officers asked her a question that still chills her. "Were you sitting in the living room when you first heard the knock?" She nodded. The officer pointed at the snow. "Then whoever did this was watching you from the yard before they ever knocked." Maren didn't stay there after Christmas. She moved to her sister's house until she found another place. The police never found out who it was. but the footprints matched boots often used in deliveries. And what haunts her most is knowing the person never tried the handle, never tried the door, never spoke. They just kept knocking, softly, patiently, like they were expecting her to open it. This story came from a woman named Tessa. She lived alone in a townhouse complex on the north side of the city, one of those places where every unit looks identical, and the winter snow makes all the sidewalks feel a little too quiet. It was December 20th, a few days before Christmas, and she'd been getting packages almost every day. Gifts she ordered for family, decorations, and a last-minute coat. That evening, she got home from work, stepped onto her porch, and saw a small cardboard box sitting on her door. No label, no markings, no Amazon tape. A plain box. At first, she didn't think anything of it. People misdeliver things all the time in complexes like hers. But when she picked it up, it was surprisingly light, empty feeling. She brought it inside, set it on her kitchen counter, and only then did she notice something odd. Her doormat, the one she kept perfectly straight, was crooked, shifted, like someone had stepped on it and slid their shoe across the fibers. She crouched down and saw a faint imprint in the snow-dampened mat, the outline of a boot heel, too big to be hers. She stood up slowly. The house was quiet, very quiet, kind of quiet that presses against your ears. She opened the plain box. Inside was a single sheet of paper, just one, folded twice. She unfolded it and froze. There was no letter, no handwriting, no message, just a printed photo, a photo of her standing in line at the hardware store just 2 days earlier, taken from behind, close, very close, like the person was standing right behind her. She stumbled away from the counter, heart pounding. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold the photo. Her first thought was someone was messing with her. A prank, a mistake, something explainable. Then she looked closer. Whoever took the picture, they weren't just behind her. They were leaning forward, close enough that a bit of her hair was caught in the frame. Close enough she should have felt them breathing down her neck. She called the non-emergency police line, and with her voice trembling, she explained what she found. They told her to wait outside for an officer. She grabbed her coat and stepped out onto the porch. Cold air, Christmas lights glowing on the neighbor's railing. Quiet. But then she noticed something in the snow, on the walkway leading to her door. Footprints. Single-direction footprints. Coming towards her door, but not going back. She looked around. Nobody in sight. Every window dark. When the officer arrived, he checked the area, looked at the photo, and told her to stay somewhere else for the night. But before he left, Tessa asked, "Do you think whoever took this is the same person who left the box?" The officer hesitated. Then he said, "Ma'am, whoever dropped this off didn't run away. They walked up to your door, stood there, took the time to set the box down, and stayed long enough to leave a clear print." Tessa swallowed. "Meaning what?" The officer exhaled slowly. "Meaning they weren't hiding from you. They weren't scared you'd come outside. Whoever this is, they're comfortable being close." Before he left, he said one last thing. Something she still thinks about whenever she walks up the steps of her porch. People who stalk from far away, they escalate slowly. People who get this close this early, they usually already know where you live. Tessa didn't go home for Christmas that year. She didn't sleep in the townhouse again without someone staying over. And the box? The police took it for prints. They never got a match. But the officer warned her. Sometimes the person who takes the photo waits for a reaction before sending the second one. She still checks her porch every morning, and she never walks into her house without looking over her shoulder first. Thanks for watching. If you have a true story, send it to acestruestories@gmail.com. If you have an idea for a future video, leave a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, there's always another story.